All right, everybody, thanks for tuning back into the channel. Justin here, and we got another video coming to you from the driveway. So you may be familiar with some of the videos I made previously about my Sea Dory 22 Cruiser Calypso. And since I've gotten this boat, I've really enjoyed kind of restoring it, modifying it, making it my own. One of the most rewarding things I've done to this thing since I've gotten it was kind of buffing the gel coat. So when I first got this boat, it was kind of hazy, a little chalky, and kind of nasty. And so I spent a ton of time bringing this thing back to life. But, you know, I've been using this boat for about 9 months now, since kind of last detail, and it's in need of a touch-up. And so we've got a pretty cool product video today. There's a company called YACHTE, and it's run by a guy named Austin at Long Island. And he reached out and sent us some detailing supplies that I'm really excited to try. So you may have heard of ceramic coating. I know I hadn't heard of it much kind of in the context of boats. I've heard about it a lot for cars. But ceramic coating is supposed to be sort of like the best, most long-lasting protective finish that you can put on a boat or a car. So to give you an idea of how well this stuff works, on a boat, this is going to last you like 3 years. If I were to put this on my car, so this same product can be used on cars as well, they claim it lasts like 7 years between applications. So that's pretty nuts. So this basically is a wax replacement. So typically on a boat, you know, depending on how much you use it and how much it sits in the sun, you're going to look at rewaxing a boat probably anywhere, you know, between 3 and 6 months. And that's a pain. You got to strip the old wax, apply new wax. It's not nearly as in-depth as buffing the boat or, you know, cutting the gel coat on the boat. But it's still kind of a pain. And so I'm really excited to try a ceramic coating to really see how long it lasts. I've heard really good things about this stuff. All right. Hey, guys. Fast forwarding a little bit, Justin from the future. So I know there are a bazillion videos out there on YouTube about how to buff your boat. You know, I'm not here to really show you the pro way of how to buff your boat, but there's one big question I've always had that I hope this video helps you answer. And that is, you know, is it worth stepping down through various types of compound, or can you start with the heaviest, fastest cutting compound and ultimately end with, you know, an acceptable finish? And so I hope that's really what this video shows here, because this is a huge time saver. If you're going to step down through various products, that's going to require, you know, essentially buffing your boat 3 times in this case. And so in this video, we're doing a side-by-side comparison where we buff this whole section using YACHTE's extra heavy cut detox compound, so the super heavy cut abrasive. Then we're going to buff from here down with the heavy cut compound. And then finally, we're going to finish with just this final section here with just the brighten and tone, which is the medium cut compound. I'll also add that every single one of these compounds are what you call a diminishing abrasive. And so they're going to start with sort of coarse abrasive particles, but as you use them, that coarseness is going to break down into finer and finer abrasive. And so it's sort of like an all-in-one. So this heavy cut is going to have a really heavy cut at the beginning, but as you use it, it's going to start to result in like a finer and finer surface finish. And so for me, one of the things I was always curious about whenever I started researching, you know, polishing my boat was, do I really need to, you know, buff my boat 3 times essentially, or can I start with a diminishing heavy cut abrasive, cut through all the heavy oxidation quickly, but then work that in enough to the point where it gives me a really nice final surface finish? And we've got the answer for you in this video here, so stick with it, stay tuned. So Austin reached out, like I said, to the channel and sent us kind of a pretty sweet care package here. And so he sent us a number of different products for detailing this thing. And so I'll start with some of the kind of soaps and things like that. So he sent their Eco Clean degreaser and all-purpose cleaner product, and then the bubble bath, which is the boat, just kind of a typical boat soap. So this is something you would use for sort of routine cleaning, so they don't strip waxes or coatings when you use them. So it's important, you don't want to use like a degreaser, like maybe like Eco Clean, or something like, you know, Dawn dish soap or Super Clean or Simple Green. Those types of cleaners can actually remove the wax. So it's important to use kind of like a proper boat soap when you're cleaning your boat for routine maintenance. And then beyond routine maintenance, he sent some products, some different cutting compounds and polishing compounds that we can check out. So I'll start with the most aggressive thing he sent. So this product here he calls Detox, and this is an extra heavy cut compound. So when I buffed this boat originally, I used a product by 3M. It was their 3M heavy cut compound. That was a diminishing abrasive. And so what was really cool about that is it took a heavy cut at the beginning, and so it cut through the kind of the heavy oxidation really quickly, but then that abrasive begins to break down into finer and finer particles to give you a better and better finish. So I'm not sure if this does the same thing, but we'll see. It says it removes extreme oxidation with ease. So I'm really excited to kind of put this to the test because we do have some spots on this boat, especially where the gel coat's like a darker color, where oxidation just sets in kind of more heavily than other places, and it's definitely more noticeable. So we'll try the detox product first. Then there's a exfoliate heavy cut compound. So not quite as extreme as detox, but again, kind of for pretty severely oxidized areas of your boat. You can use this to cut through dull and chalky gel coat pretty easily. And then once you're done with heavy compound, you can come back with a medium cut compound. This is their Brighten and Tone product. And so this is used to really put the shine on the boat and presumably leave behind more of a shine than some of the heavier abrasives. That's something I'm really interested in testing today, to see sort of what kind of shine we get at each layer or each step of the process. I'd be curious, obviously, to see if the extra heavy cut cuts through stuff quickly, but then also leaves behind a nice shine. That'd be pretty sweet. If that's the case, we could technically skip these steps here. We're going to do a section of the boat where we test these independently, and we'll see if we need to go through all three levels of cut. And then the last products he sent are kind of on the finishing end of the gel coat restoration process. And so this is the ceramic coating side of things. So the first thing that we'd use after we do the cutting compound, cut through any heavy oxidation, is we're going to use this Solar Prep product he has here. And this is just a cleaner that's going to remove any of the oils or residues left behind from the cutting compounds that we used previously. So we'll give the boat a good wash with this stuff first. Then we're going to come back with Solar Prime. So this is a primer for the ceramic coating system that contains SiO2 or silica dioxide. And I guess the point of this stuff is it's going to help the ceramic coating bond better to the gel coat. And so just like, you'd prime something before you'd paint it, this is the same deal. This is just a primer ahead of the ceramic coating system. And then lastly, these little tiny glass bottles of the ceramic coating stuff itself. So this is their Solar Graphene, which is a graphene ceramic coating. I think what sets this product apart from some of the other products on the market is that it's supposed to be pretty DIY friendly. So I'm hoping, we'll see. This should be really easy to apply. All we have to do to apply this stuff is just apply it to a microfiber applicator pad. And then once we've prepped the surface, cleaned the surface, put the primer on, we're just going to wipe this on in sort of a cross-hatch pattern to apply it evenly. And then we wait a few minutes, and then I guess from what I've read is this stuff will start to sort of sweat. And once you see this product start to sweat, you come back with a clean microfiber, wipe off the residue, and you're done. And you're done for 3 years, which is the most exciting prospect of this for me. And so this should leave behind a finish that remains glossy, remains protective, and also allows you to just simply hose the boat off when you're done, and dirt and residue and stuff will just fall away. Another thing I'm really excited to kind of test with this ceramic coating stuff is its ability to resist like stains. And so I keep this boat covered most of the time, but I have a ton of trees around here, as you can see. And sometimes, I'll put the boat away wet and a leaf will land on my gel coat. And if it sits there long enough, like the tannins or something from the leaves will like leach into the gel coat and leave behind these little stains. And then, the only way to really get rid of that is to use like an acid cleaner. So I'm curious to see if this graphene ceramic coating is going to help kind of seal that gel coat up and protect us from letting those stains settle in. So this is going to be a big job. This would probably be to detail this entire boat through all, steps of the cutting compound. The priming and ceramic coating is probably, for me, somebody that's got a day job, is a multi-day or a multi-evening process, especially considering all the surface area we have for the pilot house and the roof and everything. So in this video, I'm just going to separate off a kind of a small portion of the hull here, including some spots that have some pretty decent oxidation, and we'll just run through these steps on the smaller portion of the boat. And then later, off camera, I'm going to finish this project and do this to the whole boat. All right, and there's one more really cool product that YACHTE sent over that I wanted to share with you. So because, obviously this boat has a cabin, a pilot house, I keep this whole thing covered up, and I keep the cabin all sealed up and closed when I'm storing it. It gets a little funky in here, kind of musty. There's like no circulation. So YACHTE sent over this kind of tea tree citrus oil cabin air freshener container here. So you just take the protective film off, you crack this thing open, and you set it in your cabin. And it keeps the cabin smelling fresh. It also prevents mold and mildew from growing. and just keeps a nice stuffy cabin, you know, smelling clean. So I've been using this now for almost a month. I've had this open. It's still got a ton of weight to it. It hasn't all evaporated and works great. Every single time I come into this boat, it smells awesome. All right, so let's dive right into this project. Like I said, I'm going to start with buffing just a section of this boat just to keep it keep things moving along quickly. You don't want to watch me buff this entire boat. This would be a really long video. So I'm going to start back here. If you can see this gel coat, there's a lot of like chalky, hazy oxidation. I'm hoping that shows up on the camera. So this back corner's got some oxidation, and then we have a couple scratches and this haziness in the gel coat here. And then there's tons of little micro scratches. Again, I don't know if this will show up on the camera. See if I can get it at an angle. But you see all these little scratches? These are from dock fenders. So it wasn't until recently I put these kind of microfiber sleeves on my fenders to keep this from happening. But when I just had like the bare rubber or plastic fenders, it was kind of scratching up the gel coat and putting these little tiny micro scratches in there. And then we've got these like water spots and stuff. So we'll start with this section of the boat. So this is the kind of before, and then I'll walk you through all the different steps and show you the after. You can see here I've got a section of the boat sort of taped off. So we're going to handle just this section right here to start with. This way we'll get a clean, when we peel this tape off, we'll get a clean sort of before and after line. So step number one, because I do have wax on this boat that I've used, I typically use like a Culinite wax, it's called, is the name brand. We need to strip that wax off first. So I'm going to use the Eco Clean degreaser to take this wax off. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because ultimately this heavy cut compound we're coming through with is going to kind of wipe this totally off the gel coat. Another thing I wanted to kind of highlight about a lot of these YACHTE products is quite a few of them have this sustainable branding, and that's just kind of an eco-friendly trademark that they've come up with to let you know that these products are safe to use in the marine environment. So this is a USDA bio-based approved environmentally friendly cleaner. A lot of times when you're cleaning a boat, you're doing this kind of in a marina setting, and when you rinse all this stuff off, it goes straight into the water. And so it's important to pick a cleaner that is eco-friendly so that you aren't, polluting the water that ultimately you go out and enjoy. All right, so step two, now that we've got the wax stripped off of this hull, we're going to come through and we're going to try this extra heavy cut detox compound. Now, I'm really curious to see what this does to the oxidation, how quickly it cuts through the oxidation, and also how quickly it takes out some of these little micro scratches I showed you. So to start with, I'm just going to use a foam applicator pad. This is a black pad, so it's a pretty firm rubber compound, so this is kind of better for heavier cutting. And then as we go to finer and finer abrasives, we'll switch to a softer and softer pad. And usually I kind of start with a heavy coating just to load the pad up first time around, and then we'll continue to kind of reapply this as we use it up. So just start on a low speed to begin with, since this thing is soaked down with this compound. We'll start with a low speed and just start to spread this around, mostly just working it into the pad. I'm going to apply this one section at a time. And then once we have it sort of spread around and applied, I'm going to kick up the speed a little bit more and turn up the heat. That whole section we just hit with the detox extra heavy cut compound. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to tape off a second section, and we're going to start to go to progressively finer compounds. And so maybe I'll put a piece of tape here. We'll leave this section with just the extra heavy cut. And then we'll do this section with the heavy cut. Yeah, I think it's called the exfoliate. And then we'll tape that section off, and then we'll do this final section here with the brighten and tone, I think, the medium cut compound. Then we'll be able to compare the difference in the shine that's produced by all three of these steps. So that's what I'll do next. Okay, so I just wiped off all the extra heavy cut. We're gonna swap pads. I'm gonna go with a red pad. This is still pretty firm. This is like a medium firm. We got Finn over here checking things out. What's up, buddy? You gonna lick the compound off my face? So here's the exfoliate. One thing I'll mention is I did confirm that both of these compounds are like a diminishing style abrasive. So they're going to start coarse, and as you continue to work with them, they're going to continue breaking down into a finer and finer compound to give you a nice finish. So I'm really curious to see what this side-by-side comparison looks like and what the sort of the gloss or luster is at each step, because it's possible that maybe the heavy cut is going to produce a really fine kind of shiny finish as well. But we'll work through all three stages. So just to note, I did clean off any of the detox, the extra heavy cut, with this degreaser before applying this, just so that we don't contaminate the results with the extra heavy cut compound. Oh, this stuff smells really good too. And I think it's a good idea to swirl, like to kind of spread this stuff around like I'm doing before you start buffing, because it is a diminishing abrasive. And so if I were to start at one side and then continue working my way down to the other side before spreading this all over, I think you'll end up kind of with at one end of your project here with a finer abrasive, and you may not get as heavy of an initial cut. So I'm kind of spreading it around while it's still coarse to evenly apply it. Then we're going to go through and buff it in. Okay, we got the last section taped off. I put on a fresh green pad. This is kind of like a medium firm to light pad, so good for fine buffing. We're going to go with the Brighten and Tone product. So this is their medium cut abrasive. They do say on the label that it's still okay for buffing pretty heavy oxidation, but then it's going to break down to a really fine diminishing abrasive to get you like a really shiny, glossy final surface finish. So we're going to apply it to the pad, and then what the instructions say is kind of towards the end of the section that you're buffing is to start lightening up on pressure, and that'll help really like make the gloss pops. All these smell different too, which is kind of cool. This is like a, I don't know, like a flowery orange smell. This one smells really good. Let's clean this off, and then we can compare the results. I'm gonna go get a fresh microfiber towel just to make sure that I've got all this residue cleaned off and it's a fair comparison. Okay, so we've gone through all three sort of compounding stages from right to left here, starting with detox, which was the extra heavy cut compound, the exfoliate, which is the heavy cut compound, and then the brighten and tone, which is the medium cut with a really nice like kind of light pass at the end to really make it shine. And I've taped off those different surfaces. I've peeled the tape back, but I've left a little bit hanging just so we can kind of see where those different segments were. And I'm gonna have to bring the camera up really close, but you can tell a difference in luster for sure, which I'm almost a little bummed about. Like I was really hoping that we could just go with the extra heavy cut compound and it leaves just this awesome glossy surface finish, which it does. But if you're really particular about how shiny things are, it's definitely worth maybe stepping down through the different coarsenesses of compound to get like the ultimate shine, especially if you've got a boat with a darker color. So I'm going to bring you in close here. If you're looking at the white part of the hull, even at an angle, I mean, you really have to get close to see the difference. I don't know if it'll show up on this camera in compounds. And so I would say if you just had a plain white boat, maybe going with something like exfoliate, which is their heavy cut compound, would be, you know, kind of all you had to do. But if you've got a boat that's got like a dark color, like my maroon stripe here on my Sea Dory, that's when these differences will really start to show up. And so I can definitely tell a difference if you get at the right angle between where I use the extra heavy cut, the heavy cut, and the medium cut. The medium cut absolutely has kind of like the deepest shine. I mean, look at that. I hope this shows up on camera. That is just gorgeous. I mean, that's absolutely a beautiful surface finish. It's like a mirror. And it makes that like dark color, like this super rich, deep effect. But either way, honestly, I think any of these finishes are totally acceptable. But if you really are after like the ultimate shine, it's worth stepping down through the different compounds. So I hope this was a useful experiment and a good test. All right, so just a quick summary. You know, if you're not going for like an absolute perfect showboat shine, I think it is totally acceptable to go with something like, say, Detox, which is the extra heavy cut compound, if you've got really, you know, pretty heavy oxidation, or probably more likely, start and use this exfoliate heavy cut compound. And I honestly think that you can use just this compound and still get an absolutely fantastic finish. So it might not be as super deep and beautiful as if you finished off with the Brighten and Tone, but frankly, I think for 99% of the people out there, this is going to give you an amazing final finish and save yourself a whole lot of work by not having to step down through all the different abrasives. All right, now that we got this whole section of the boat buffed out, I've still, you know, I've only buffed them with the 3 compounds you saw. So if you look really closely, you can see the difference between where I buffed with various compounds. But now what I'm interested in is if we apply the ceramic coating over top of that, does it basically make those differences imperceivable? And so this is the exciting part. This is the part I've never done before, ceramic coating. So let's dive right in. Step number 1 is we're going to hit it with the Solar Prep product here. And so this is just a cleaner that's going to remove any residue from the buffing compound we used previously. Stuff does not smell as good. Don't sniff your boat detailing products. And this product like evaporates really quickly. It maybe has like an alcohol base, like a Windex or something like that. And so it leaves a nice dry finish to go off of. All right, now that we have the surface cleaned and prepped with the Solar Prep, we're gonna hit it with this Solar Prime. This is that SiO2 kind of impregnated primer polish. And so this one's a little bit different. We're going to apply this with the buffer. So I've got a really light pressure pad here. We're going to shake this well. We're going to buff it into the gel coat, wipe all the residue off, and then we let it cure for an hour before we can apply the graphene ceramic coating, the final step. So let's get to it. You can also apply this by hand, the directions say, but I figure power tools are always better. I love how all these have different scents too. This one's mint scented. That's kind of fun. I'm gonna wipe it on. We'll get started. That's buffed on. I'm gonna wipe the excess off with a microfiber, and then we let this cure for an hour before proceeding to the graphene part. Okay, so we applied that solar primer. We buffed it in with the buffer, and we've let it cure for an hour. One thing I wanted to point out was that solar primer seems to have made the difference between the different stages of coarseness of buffing compound we did less noticeable. And so, again, I kind of think it would be very reasonable to use a heavy cut compound, either the extra heavy or the heavy, completely. That's it. Don't step down in coarseness. I think you could totally use one of those diminishing abrasives to complete this project. And that Solar Prep primer seemed to have taken out, like kind of do like a final polishing step and taken out a lot of the differences between these 2 or 3 different buffing compounds. I don't know if you can see on the camera. She is super slick, mega shiny. I mean, I can see my reflection in there. And the difference between those 2 stages is like really hard to notice. And so we're ready for the final stage, which is the graphene coating. So this is the Solar Graphene Ceramic Coating. And so all we have to do is take just a few drops of this stuff. Whew, I can already smell it, it's pretty potent. A few drops of this stuff, put it onto a microfiber applicator pad. So YACHTE sent us a few of these microfiber sponges, pretty cool. I think they sell these on their website as well. And we're just going to take a few drops to kind of prime the pad, fold it over and kind of taco it, or butterfly it to distribute the coating out. I'm going to do a couple more just to get kind of more uniform coverage on this thing. And then that's it. I think we're ready to apply it. So you don't need a whole lot of this stuff, hence the tiny little bottle. And we're going to apply it in a crosshatch pattern. So here goes nothing. So I can see where I'm applying it. It's almost like it looks greasy. in a way, so you can kind of see if you look closely where you're putting this stuff on. Definitely harder to see on the white gel coat. And we're gonna go vertically. I guess that's it. So now we wait, we let this stuff flash off. I think it takes a few minutes, and then supposedly you'll see it kind of sweat. And then when it sweats, we're gonna do what's called leveling it, where we take, we start with a microfiber cloth, a brand new microfiber cloth, and just kind of wipe off any residue. Then we come back with another fresh microfiber cloth to wipe off like the final residue. So while we're waiting for the ceramic coating to flash off back there, I want to try applying this to windows. So you can also apply this ceramic coating to glass, seat cushions, pretty much anything. And so it supposedly makes a super hydrophobic surface. And one of the pet peeves I have about a sea door is when you take spray over the bow, especially in salt water, which is primarily where I run, you get like, you know, salt spray residue left on the window, which makes it kind of difficult to see. And so I'm going to use the Solar Prep cleaner to clean this glass really well. And then we're going to apply ceramic coating to the glass and see how it does. It's almost like a Rain-X, I guess. I'm just going to add a couple drops of the ceramic coating. Taco this thing over to sort of spread it out. And then apply in a crosshatch pattern. Oops. This will be cool. Now we're going to do what's called leveling the coating, where we're going to come in with a microfiber and wipe off the excess. Man, it is so slick. Holy crap. It is amazing how clean this feels. It is just perfectly smooth. That is awesome. And then they say to come back with a clean microfiber and finish it off. That's what we'll do. This is nuts. It is so, it's like a mirror. I don't know how to get a better shot of this, but like, can you see my reflection in there? It is absolutely slick smooth. It is like glass. That is really cool. And if you look closely here, you can see, let's see if I can get a good shot of this, where the tape was. There's actually, probably shouldn't chip at it, but I can almost feel it with my fingernail where the line where the tape was, where we applied, or where we stopped applying the ceramic coating. So this is like, it actually is kind of thick. I mean, not, you know, maybe several microns thick, not super thick, but you can totally see like a definite line, ceramic versus non-ceramic. Hope that shows up on the camera. Pretty stoked. That is cool. Again, here's the line ceramic, no ceramic, ceramic, no ceramic. Pretty sweet. So, really excited to see how this lasts. I'm dying to spray some water on it to see how hydrophobic it is, but we have to let this cure for 24 hours before we get it wet. So, we're going to do that. Now, I'll follow up in the video with like kind of a water shot, but... All right, check this out. So, ceramic coated, not ceramic coated. You can see the line right there. Watch this. I spray it. Let's get the camera lens wet. Look at how it just instantly it beads off. It sheets on this side. Sheets on this side. Just totally beads off on the other side. Yeah, that's awesome. The water just falls away. Looks like a really good wax job, basically. Then, remember we also tried this out on the windows. So, we tried that front window. Just beads right off, but look at the window next to it. You can see there's like, watch this. See the difference? This one just falls right off. That one's still covered in water droplets. So, pretty impressive. I think I'm a believer. It's like literally squeaky clean. Love it. Kind of final thoughts are totally DIY-able. So, you know, a rookie like me, totally capable of ceramic coating a boat. I think the most labor-intensive part is going to be buffing it, which isn't necessarily difficult. It just can be time-consuming. But once it's buffed, the surface prep, the cleaning, and then the application of the ceramic coat is actually really easy. Way easier than I thought it was going to be. Just put a few drops on a sponge, wipe it back and forth, let it flash off, and then wipe off the residue. So this is pretty sweet. So We have about 18 more feet of this boat to do, both sides of the hull and then the pilot house. So wish me luck, but thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful. I think the big takeaway, the kind of nugget of information here that I'm hoping everybody leaves with sort of satisfied, is that I don't think it's necessary, if you use the YACHTE diminishing abrasive compound, to step down through all the different various like coarsenesses of compound. I think for 99% of the people out there, hit it with a heavy cut, you know, a light finishing pass, and then of course if you use the solar graphene coating, that solar prep really takes it over the top. But I don't think there's any need to spend a ton of time and basically buff your boat 3 times to get a good shine. This is insane. I couldn't imagine this thing being any shinier than it is right now. So thanks for watching. I'm going to leave a link below to the YACHTE website and some of the products I used for this. So again, thanks for watching. I'm going to try to shoot more actual videos on the water where we use this boat. I'm always working on it. And usually when I spend time on it, I don't bring a camera with me. So I'm going to try to do a better job of recording some of the adventures we go on. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.